celebrating their independence, and everyone is happy. So I will now tell the story, and please listen carefully. Manly called up a referendum for you to make your own decision. So the people voted wisely, now everyone is happy that there's no more federation. Now independence is good for the young and the old, also for me and you. Yes, independence is great for the whole population, including your children too. So I believe that if we try our best, it will be a great success. So let us live in unity for progress and prosperity. Let's go! Independent Jamaica. Manly went up to England to seek for independence, and although Buster was late, he still attended the conference. Although from two different parties, it was very good to see how these two politicians were shaking hands when they gained victory. Now independence is good for the young and the old, also for me and you. Yes, independence is great for the whole population, including your children too. So I believe that if we try our best, it will be a great success. So let us live in unity for progress and prosperity. Swing it, daddy. When these two men came from England, they came the very same day on two different planes that stopped at Montego Bay. They separated back down to Kingston, but still we are very pleased. For they got independence, so let's rejoice to be the first in the West Indies. Now independence is good for the young and the old, also for me and you. Yes, independence is great for the whole population, including your children too. So I believe that if we try our best, it will be a great success. So let us live in unity for progress and prosperity. Swing it, daddy. Independence Jamaica. Let's go, man.
Greetings, beautiful soul family. Welcome to another super insightful, too much to talk about with myself, Tarun Hari. We are going to be looking at something super special. Today is Jamaica's Independence Day, and I want to say happy Independence Day to all Jamaicans right across the world. There's more Jamaicans off the island than on the island, and I know a lot of people are celebrating this day for many reasons. A lot of people are still griping about the day, feeling, you know, like there's still issues to solve, but we got to give ourselves a tap on the back in terms of a nation or a people that has struggled to get to where we are today. The fight will always be present in the age of Kali Yuga. Everybody have them tests, and for me, as a humanitarian-minded person, you know, I don't care where you come from persecution, reach up on the level of being scarred by what's happened over the years in colonized through the process of colonization. Listen, I'm on your side. We fight together. We rise together. The slogan out of Jamaica, out of many, we are one. That the way how that resonates with me is it's not even funny. You know, traveling continents and being open-minded to see different nations and different situations and different conditions that people have to go through. You know, as a humanitarian, and again, you have to look beyond skin, you have to look beyond language, you have to really find that space of brotherly and sisterly love. And the more you look back in history and you start putting the pieces together, you start to realize that segregation or alienation or what's the word that I would use? Compartmentalization don't really cut it. It doesn't really cut it. Let me just bring that music just a little bit, just in case. So today's presentation on the emancipation of Jamaica, the Independence Day. I'm taking it so deep. It's always so much to talk about, and you know me with my esoteric goggles on per se. I gotta dig deep. I gotta really dig deep, and really pull out some things that again are sometimes commonly unknown or even forgotten about. And this is where, you know, I wanted to start this presentation earlier today, but just going through the slides, I was saying to myself, boy, Tarun, I forgot to fight the tears pan that one here because it hard, man, it deep, and how I resonate with Jamaica. Boy, my heart bleeds in so many ways. My heart bleeds in so many ways. I just wouldn't like to kind of go over the amount of areas, but it will show itself in this presentation as I unveil the nuts and bolts of what it means to be independent and what it means that, you know, why some people are still griping for the idea of full emancipation, full delivery from colonized, from post-colonized era. You know, when they say the father Babylon are these things of, right now, the main frontline fighter that everyone is protecting with their heart, mind, souls and prayers is Ibrahim Traore. He's making such a massive difference, and that echoing of his movements that are, you know, in years to come, in 100 years, he'll be seen like a saint. He'll be seen like a saint or a prophet or a riser from generations and this and that. He will be seen like a holy saint who literally come to correct some errors and fix some things and put some things straight back. So the original, what we have as a vibration, we can call it Wakanda from what we've seen in, you know, the movies and this and that, and even we look back into the name and so forth. But there's that principle of richness as a people worldwide, that different communities within that sector live together harmoniously. And what I've been going through this episode of Rastafari Liberty, which all ties in. It all ties in with everything, and the Vedanta stuff that I had crossed earlier in my life, that has enriched my understanding. The Sanskrit stuff that has enriched my understanding of above cultural reference per se, looking at where words come from, even Rasta and Ras and this and that and ganja and blah blah blah, and Om and vibration and frequency, and you know, getting my own Tibetan bowls and seeing how powerful they are, working them in accordance to the Sanskrit resonance and so forth. It's just been a real powerful journey. And not just to keep it, it's not even to say that I'm keeping it or pushing Sanskrit up in the forefront, but again, it's another concept that there's a lot of demonization that happens around that. There's a lot of demonization that's happened around the Bantu principles, around early Kemetic principles, Africa as a whole. I'm not even too keen on the name Africa, because again, that was a name that was given to the land of the Kushites or the Kush people. So just to see the disturbance that's happened over history and the displacement, because in our free trod as original Ethiopian people that left Ethiopia to venture across the world and so forth, we didn't leave out in a space of disharmony and so forth. But as time grew, consciousness fell, the degradation of consciousness, morality and empathy fell, and the rise of races that were maleficent, evil, outright wicked, outright disgusting, outright shameful to even be called human as far as I'm concerned. Because how I have it is, as we as black people per se resonate on this concept of love thy neighbor, it's something that has been one of our key signatures and one of our resonance, because we understand the principle of neighbors, because everything comes from us. But there's a quote in Vedanta, interestingly enough, that there's a saying that demons, the description of a demon is to destroy, the first description of a demon is the demon will try to destroy that from which it came from. A demon aims to destroy from that which it came from. And you see this in a lot of royal bloodlines, you'll see this in a lot of colonial history inside colonial empires themselves. You know, family, I take out family, I take out mother, I take out father, I take out king, I take out brother, I take out, it's just outright rotten corruption. So that thing that where we've had to protect ourselves against evildoers per se has been a signature of what we've had to deal with as a whole, as a people, regardless. So when I say as a people, I'm not just talking about a particular race. I'm talking about all races that has gone through persecution. And that's really, and the reason why I'm stressing this so importantly is because when we look at Jamaican independence, out of many we are one. The Jamaicans became a people. You have to understand that. The Jamaicans became a people. People are going to scratch them at the pan they one day, and I say, boy, a wet Tarun go on with but became. What do you mean became? This is when I say, if you dig deep, you start to dig up stuff and you go, well, and hold on. The Jamaicans became a people, out of bloodshed, out of suppression, out of migration, out of unification with others that were in the same boat. Jamaicans finally became a people. That when they finally became a people, independence was then granted. It's very deep. So in this view of looking at Independence Day, what does it really mean? Like, again, when I take out my esoteric glasses, it starts to look really, really deep. So let's dive into the presentation straight away without delay and get into the finite components of this. So let me shrink myself down. Okay, here we go. Let's get the screen sizes right. So again, happy Independence Day to Jamaica, all Jamaicans all around the world. Rasta, Jamaica, Haiti, I'm saying Haiti, We're going to take it even deeper. So, the first question that I really want to ask, and this is where a lot of the frustration still lies, did Jamaica really free itself, or are there still chains to break? Are there still chains to break? Is there, and like the Rasta would say, until Babylon fall, until all shackles are released. There's something synonymous why I have a real, it's not because just my mom and dad, they were born in Jamaica, and it's not even that. It's something that really resonates with a sort of repeat of history, and in this repeat of history that I find that I keep seeing every now and then, whether it's during the time of Rome or in the time of this or in the time, there was a particular type of people that rose against the oppressors, and they were always made out to be the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst. But if the world didn't have that intervention, we would not be, as a whole world, where we are today with the freedom that we have, and able to depict the areas on what still needs to be broken and fixed back to a certain natural resonance where the world can live together as one family. So when we look at Jamaica as a whole and the history, when we go back, because I just with years some Jamaican born and don't really know them history per se, understanding that when I say that Jamaicans were made, the first black indigenous people on Jamaica was Africans, not Jamaicans, Africans. And this is how they were carried around, mother, woman and child, chained singly, neck to this, to that. The soldiers had the thing on their head while the slaves had the things around their neck. Literally dragged like a animal. This was the setting. This was a horrible area of the past that not a lot of Jamaicans actually even want to look back, especially because the resonance of hate that you sometimes find between our Jamaican and African brothers, and that horrible joke that resonates when Africans say, "We sold you." That's one of the horriblest things that anybody could say. When you look at this, it's kind of the epitome of how you would treat a human. And the worst thing is that they even cultivated our own to treat our own like this. This is how deep the psychological effect was ingrained. They taught our own to treat us like this just to save their lives. So everybody was put in an alienated gap from the off. There was no unity. Everything was about segregation. The only thing that could be kept in sort of a resonance was mother and child, and that was for a specific reason. Now, if you've read the letter, what's the letter from Willie Lynch, Until the Phenomenon Occurs, and how women were taught to treat their men with mistrust, distrust, and the whole thing, knowing that they would be killed if they put their love to them. If a woman was seen to trust a man or fall in love with a man in public, that man would be put on the back of a horse. The horse would be sent to charge down the road, and the man will be dragged in the floor repeatedly, time again, drummed into the woman's psyche. Don't put your trust in securing a future with any man. And this was ingrained. They were literally used like labs, especially when it came to the sexual idea of just breeding. You know, they always wanted the firstborn man, the first male, to then breed them into stronger slaves. There was a whole operation going on, a whole operation that really damaged and put the psyche of the Africans at the time into a very low vibration, very animalistic. And this went on for hundreds of years, not 5 years or 10 years, hundreds of years. Now, the only thing that is, what's the word that I would say? I don't even think there's a word for it. I can't even think of a word for it. There is no word for it. There is no only. And I'm going to the, all right, let's say this. The only reason that slaves were spared were for the idea of if they still have any use, if they still had any productive use, then their lives may be spared. This is important to really understand. And they was driven to the point where they had no use, then slaughtered like if they weren't nothing. So this was commercialized slavery, and it got to a point where, you know, they was really worried about traveling back from Africa with slaves and losing half of them crossing the sea. They had to find ways to preserve the stock, because it literally was like, if you're going to, you want to come back with livestock that you can sell. If half the stock is no good, then if they weren't trying to loot Africa for the gold and this and that, they still wanted livestock, because this is where most of the trade was focused on, especially for building the archetypical constructs that were in notion. In other words, railroads, this, that, blah, blah, blah. So, in Jamaica particularly, Jamaica ruled, the English ruled Jamaica for a period of 307 years of slavery. 307 years, and it might be a little bit more, but this is just what history's kind of showing us. And again, this was all through commercialism. You can see there's a man there taking check of his stock, taking check of the plantation and this and that and so forth. But the state, the condition, the you know, no clothes, no nothing, just nothing. Just terrible conditions. 307 horrible years of slavery in Jamaica. And we sometimes put that in the back of our mind, like, and when we talk about happy Independence Day, we sometimes forget certain aspects of the roots of Jamaica as a whole. And like I said, this was a commercialized aspect of slavery, where after the 16th century, the brutality was being checked in a way that those that were in, you know, evil demise, in that evil process of colonizing, they kind of had a check. They had to stop checking themselves and say, listen, I know we're just out there murdering and genocide and all of this, but we have to change the format, because if we kill them all, then, you know, we might as well put them to some use. Change the narrative a little bit. Don't just kill them, because I know we're having fun, but what happens when we run out of them? What happens when we run out of them? So this is where the slave trade kind of took some shape and form. Not to say that it had any respect for human life as a whole, but that concept of, okay, let's see if we can get some longevity rather than just killing them. Because they do look strong. They do look like, you know. So, previous to all of that kicking off, before Christopher Columbus set foot on Jamaica, this is what the original habitants looks like. A forgotten people that hardly ever get spoken about. And this is when my heart starts to bleed a little bit, because they're still a very resonant part of Jamaica. Boy, now the Jamaican flag and the Jamaican stamp at the time, the Jamaican emblem, out of many one people. This was what should I say? This was doctored. This was doctored by the British colony, when they took over. And the Jamaican emblem as a whole. One time I'm there in Jamaica and I say, yeah, me buy a t-shirt and I see the outer many one. I'm gonna put on the t-shirt and I walk, something I just feel funny about the t-shirt. I look on the t-shirt, I say, alright. Oh man, alright, she naked and nothing. That's indigenous. That's some indigenous people. Okay, she's holding a basket. Okay, hold on. But the layout in my head is just weren't ringing, it weren't kind of, and then I see the thing, the icon on the head, and I'm thinking, hold on, Jamaican people don't look like that. And they here straight, look, Jamaican people here not straight, as me know Jamaican people, them have, when them call 9-eater, them here twist, tight curl. What's going on? And then I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, hold on, these people look tribal. Hold on a minute. So I start looking at the history of the emblem and this stamp that was around at the time. And again, you can see on the stamp, there's a stamp of a woman and her legs are wide open. And this was of Christopher Columbus times. And while Christopher Columbus was in Jamaica, in his rules, you could consider it as, now, as you can see on the stamp, it says, Jamaica, the fairest isles. He was very, very fond of Jamaica because he said the people are very subtle, they're very gentle. They don't have an ounce of war-type energy within them. And the biggest weapon that they had was the spear, but they weren't, it was just for hunting. They didn't actually fight each other as a people. They lived unified. But he decided to come in, and this is one of the stories of history that has never been told quite straight. So the Jamaican coat of arms, official elements, officially adopted in 1661 under British colonial rule and slightly modified since. The Jamaican coat of arms contains the crocodile on the top of the crest, a male and female Taino Arawak figure, a shield with a red cross and 5 golden pineapples. The national motto, out of many, one people. Out of many, one people. And this is how the one people became Jamaicans. So when the British took over, there was a few things that they adopted, especially the slogan at the bottom. And we will get to that. So, looking deeper into the history of the Jamaican Tainos, of Jamaica, the Tainos, the triumphant survival, the Taino figures, the first people and sacred masculine feminine balance. The inclusion of the Taino man and woman on the emblem we're talking about here now. The native inhabitants of Jamaica reflects the original custodians of the land, often erased from modern narratives. So what we're looking at is what does the two figures actually represent in the mind of a certain mindset for those who actually know. There's loads of Jamaicans, when they see this, it's a hard one. It's a hard one because some of them born in an era where they don't even know what they mean. And again, highlighting, out of all the flags in the world, Jamaica is the only one that has a man and a woman of indigenous nature with no clothes on, and no set of the divine presence to explain why they like that, and I will come to that. So, inclusion of the Taino man and woman, native inhabitants of Jamaica, reflects the original custodians of the land, often erased from modern narratives. Spiritually, they represent balance, divine masculine and feminine principles, grounded in earth-based spirituality. From an esoteric perspective, their presence is a reminder of sacred indigeneity, root wisdom, and importance of harmony with nature. Esoteric meaning, they stand for traditions. And this goes all the way through back to Bantu philosophy and the whole thing. One day I will dive into an episode of tying up the whole, it's actually in the book that I've written, Way of Life, but I would like to spend a little time breaking down a few things. So, when we look at who shaped Jamaica, we have to look at the 3 warrior aspects that broke the mindset of that slave mentality, or that where we was, as a people, driven down 307 years of head down in the mud, the lowest aspect of human liberty that you can find yourself in. The three communities that rose to really change the mindset, to create a new mindset of thinking in Jamaica, to what's known as I'm a Jamaican today, is the Tainos, the Maroons, and the Rastafarians. Without these three groups of people, and when I say Rastafarians, you know, I'm not just talking about the Rastafarians when they decided to become Rastafarians. I'm talking about from the time when that amalgamation of when the Indians came in, and also that brought in the Chinese came in a little bit later, another 50 years later, but because there was a relationship built already within the community with the Indians and the Africans at the time, and the Maroons and Tainos, and they all understood what needed to be done. They all understood oppression. There's so much evidential history of oppression happening worldwide that as elders, if you want to look at it like that, who's going to synchronize above cultural reference and bring together their tool sets. Where you have. All right, let's bring it together and create a new mindset for a people that can rise against this evil. So we're looking at people that look like this. The Tainos. We're looking at people that originally looked like this, who had to be worrying for their life when Christopher Columbus set down on the island. And it's such a sad story because it's one of the most horrific, unspoken, misunderstood stories of history. The fate of the Taino people, the indigenous inhabitants of Jamaica, Hispaniola, now Haiti and the Dominican Republic, Cuba and other parts of the Caribbean, is one of the most tragic yet widely misunderstood chapters in history. Because at this time, they didn't care for life. They had no care for life whatsoever. It was literally cannibalistic, evil. It was just, I don't know. Who were the Taino? The Taino were part of a larger Arawakan-speaking indigenous peoples of the Caribbean. They were skilled agriculturalists, spiritual people, and creators of complex societies with matrilineal inheritance, astronomical knowledge, and sacred earth practices. Tongue twisting. And this is it. Look at the pictures. Look at original Jamaica. Watch them now. Feel the resonance, feel the vibes. This is the originals. Feel the vibes. So yes, definitely they practice spiritual smoking and inhalation ritualization using native plants. But it wasn't ganja. They had a next thing, cahoba, yopo ceremony. This is the cahoba yopo ceremony. The Taino inhaled powdered cahoba made from the seeds of the, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. Should I? Go on then. Anadenanthera peregrina tree. I don't even know what that is. Is that a fruit? That must be an ancient fruit. So they used to powder the seeds from that. And this was a powerful psychoactive similar to the effect of DMT. Now, I've never gone anywhere near DMT, but I've heard of, I've spoken to people who's had DMT experiences, and according to the level of trance that they go into, they say it's something incomparable that is life-changing, and they'll never forget it. And they really get the understanding of being in a matrix vault, and they understand that they're no longer the physical body. They understand that they're energy. They understand the matrix. They understand the levels of perceptions. So much things that DMT trips can take you on that I've heard reports of. However, you can do that all within meditation. So used by shamans, Behiku, to communicate with ancestors and spirits. So again, this is another ancient practice. Cahoba was blown through a Y-shaped pipe into the nose. It induced, let's just stop this. Where am I? It induced visions, state trances, and deep spiritual connection. So let me put these phones on flight mode. So, did the Taino have a Rastafari vibe? Absolutely. They had a free trod concept. They were in alignment with nature. They were italists. They were living with nature. Again, they were in harmony. They didn't know nothing about fight. They weren't against each other. Okay, just check in. Wonderful. So, what happened to them? What was the real thing that was really, you know what, I couldn't even find pictures. I pure black and white me have to do because it's really heart rendering looking at exactly what happened to them. You know, they were first enslaved. The Spanish enslaved the Taino under the Encomienda system, which forced them to work in mines and on plantations. I guess that's a Spanish system. They were also used for sexual slavery, forced labor, and transport across islands. Columbus wrote in his journal that the Taino were gentle and kind, and therefore easy to subjugate. They were decimated by disease. The Taino had no immunity to European disease like smallpox, measles, influenza. These diseases spread rapidly and killed up to 90% of the population within decades. They were massacred. Spanish soldiers frequently massacred entire villages for resisting colonization. Taino rebellions were met with extreme violence, burning, dismemberment, and crucifixions. Leaders like Hatui, a Taino chief in Cuba, were burned alive. This is when it just turn up. This is known as the Taino genocide. Not a lot of people even talk about this one. They talk about Rwanda. They talk about the Pope. What's his name again now? His name is so, I've forgotten about his name. But the Taino genocide. Nobody talks of this. Almost 3 million people in the quickest time. It's the speed rate that's the most horrific about it. It's the rate, the speed that the Spanish done it at. The speed, the Spanish up to now. You see, if my God spear my stomach I turn. You see, I know when you see the fire burn over there. Me not say nothing still. The Taino genocide that was led by Christopher Columbus. Not a lot of people. This is one of the things that people just do not even talk about or don't even understand the nature of it. The Taino genocide from 1492 to 1518 is where the Spanish wiped out most of the Tainos, Arawaks, the native people of the Northern Caribbean, present-day Cuba, Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Bahamas, etc. Columbus himself set it in motion and oversaw it till the 1500s. According to one estimate, genocide and disease wiped out 3 million of the 3.5 million Tainos, 85%. Most were already dead when smallpox arrived in 1518. Columbus made La Taina, the land of the Tainos, into a living hell. He went way beyond simply killing those who fought Spanish rule. The Spanish had the Tainos grilled, cut up into pieces like sheep, run down by hunting dogs, and torn to pieces, strung up and burned alive 13 at a time in memory of Jesus and his apostles. Come on, man. Oh, God, I feel sick. I really. This is one of the, you see this one here, it touched me, you see. This one touched me. They killed even women and children, even babies. The Spanish threw babies against rocks and into rivers and laughed. They cut off pieces of Tainos for entertainment. They cut off their heads for practice. They raped women and girls and brought back syphilis to Europe. Yo, you see, I knew this year one year was going to be rough. I don't really normally talk about these aspects. I normally kind of keep it all spiritual and sort of stuff, but it's the balance in it. Sometimes you have to get real and look upon certain things to understand. You know, a lot of people don't even know what Christopher Columbus looked like. I had a vision of what this evil, these evil cults were doing in the world, and what was their driving motive? What were their intentions, and what extremities did they go to? What was it that they were mocking? Why would you want to mock Jesus and the 12 apostles? Why? Well, outside of the concept of Jesus and the 12 apostles, there's the number 13 as a whole, which we has been led to believe that it's an unlucky number. There's so many deep sciences to this, so many undercurrent sciences to this. Anyway, let's move on. So, some were assimilated or absorbed, some surviving Taino intermarried or merged with African and Spanish populations. These cultural traces are still present in Jamaican patois words like hammock, barbecue, and canoe. These words originally came from the original Taino people, and there are still others. So herbal medicines, there's still practice today and can be found in Jamaican medicines. Spiritual practices, there's an intertwining, again, with Arawak Indians from Jamaica, the whole 9 yards. That's come together to make the core basis of Jamaican spiritual practices, the Jamaican mindset, the Jamaican warrior, the Jamaican fighter against oppression. So, 5, were they wiped out completely? Colonial historians claimed the Taino went extinct, but this is false. Taino descendants still exist, particularly in Eastern Cuba, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and Jamaica in traces. Many Afro-Indigenous people today are reclaiming their Taino ancestry and reviving cultural memory. So, the pictures you see there are Tainos in Jamaica. These people consider themselves from the Jamaica bloodline. Again, look at their hair, straight, not curly. There was a time in Jamaican history when there was a term for a people with them called coolie. Coolie them. And this coolie, again, I found it very, unless you come from Jamaica and you're in a certain part of the community, it would be offensive to even use the word, because sometimes it was taken as derogatory. So it's a very careful word we have to use that word there. And at one time in history, it was a popular word, but it almost became, it became a derogatory word, or a word you have to use very carefully. But again, an indigenous streak in Jamaica that is overlooked. And this lovely girl at the bottom, I am Taino from Jamaica. My tribe is the first tribe of contact. We are not extinct. My family and tribe is matriarchal. You can find her on Instagram, Facebook, but you can find many that are still holding up the resonance of the Taino history. And as it says here, at the advice of our medicine woman, we fled to the Patty Hills. They call Patty Bigger Jamaica. We fled to the Patty Hills of Hanover, where we eventually intermarried with the Maroons that settled there. Our family is still on our land. The women in our family passed our traditions down from mother to daughter, so we are blessed to still have some of our teachings. My mother is now Kakik, and I have taken the mantle of knowledge keeper, a boitoy, and Bakey, shaman and ceremonial leader. Well on there. I had to do that. Forgive me. So this is where I'm saying Jamaican people were made. And we have to look at these aspects. We can't forget the Taino people. We can't forget all the warriors from the first, everyone that came together for that fight. So my ancestors are strong, and I am honored to work with them and my family to re-establish our tribe and traditions. Full salute. So, looking deeper, that's the image of Christopher Columbus, and it was known that after the killing fields, the Spanish divided the remaining Tainos among themselves to teach them the Christian faith. For Taino men, that meant working in the mines, often being worked to death. As many as 90% died within 3 months. For Taino women, that meant working the land, even the heavy work that men used to do. There was so little food that babies died for lack of milk. Children died of hunger by the thousands. Men were worked so hard in the mines that few children were born. Columbus demanded a certain amount of gold or cotton from each Taino over the age of 13. Those who failed to meet his demands had their hands cut off. All this was shocking behavior by Western standards of the time. When there was no longer enough Taino workers left, the Spanish brought in African slaves to take their place. All this was shocking behavior. The Spanish, somebody said the Spanish, burn on fire, burn a blazing fire upon them. I'm not even saying that, because even to this day they still hold that same racist resonance, but hey, let's keep it moving. All this was shocking behavior by Western standards at the time. When there were no longer enough Taino workers left, the Spanish brought in African slaves to take their place. It was such a hell on earth that mothers killed their babies. Mass suicides were common. Sickening, horrid. So all of this, we're talking hundreds of years before Rasta persecution, hundreds of years before Selassie I stepped on the scene. Gut-wrenching, it feels like I was there. So, Hatui, one of the Taino kings of Cuba, told his people to throw their gold into the river. The Christians worshipped gold as their gods and would kill them for it. In 1512, when Hatui was about to be burned at the stake, as you can see in the picture, a Franciscan brother told him about the Christian faith to save his soul. When Hatui found out that most good Christians were going to heaven, he chose hell. Just to show you. No, you know, because this Christian thing can't see nothing good in it. Nothing good in it. We're not talking about Christian and I go around and I kill people and I really focus on, because Hatui, he was a very prominent figure in the rebellion, in the rebellious movement against oppression, against colonization, deep in the thick of it. And as time went on, the battens went on, the baton went on, the mindset, the baton went on, the baton grew. The concept grew. It just kept handing on the line, down the line. We've got to reach there one day. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. So let's go back to the badge. Let's go back to the emblem. What we find with the emblem, we have to look at the power of symbology. Symbology is one of the things that rules people and they don't even realize. And when I go to Jamaica, I absolutely love Jamaica. I absolutely love Jamaica. Jamaica's such a beautiful place, and there's some beautiful people there as well. However, there's an energy. There's an energy down there that breeds ignorance, that breeds slackness. It breeds, breeds a whole heap of things. And if we even looked at certain aspects that, again, things we don't look at. Again, most Jamaicans nowadays, they don't understand the emblem and the power of symbology and what it's doing to their psyche. So let's look at what the colonial objective was when the British came in now and tampered with the emblem, the sign of Jamaica. So, colonial objectification of indigenous bodies. The Taino man and woman were included in the emblem under British colonial rule. Many scholars and Rastafari elders see this as a symbolic exploitation. The colonizer owns the image of the first people, reduced to symbols in a European crest. The nudity was not meant to honor the Taino, but to show them as noble savages. A colonial trope suggesting innocence, passivity, and weakness. Critique. Their bodies may have been displayed to romanticize conquest, not empower their memory. Number 2, lack of dignity or consent. Modern indigenous Caribbean communities were never asked whether they want to be represented this way. The figures remain static and vulnerable, locked in a symbol designed during Jamaica's enslavement and occupation. The critique. Some view it as a continued humiliation, showing the first Jamaicans exposed while the crown sits proudly on top. 3, spiritual imbalance in symbolism. Esoterically, nudity can represent purity and truth, but without proper framing, it can also signal vulnerability, disempowerment, or ritual exposure. The figures do not appear empowered, they are not armed, not in motion, and not depicted as divine or sovereign, unlike the crocodile on the top or the shield in the center. Critique. This suggests that the ancestors are supporting a foreign crown rather than defending their land. Voila, no man. Also, the pineapples on the shield, I'll put that in there. The pineapple is the fruits of the land that now belong to England. They don't belong to the owners of the land. The basket is bringing the fruits to the crown. Number 4, hidden psychological effects. Many Jamaicans don't realize the figures are Taino or why they are naked. Over time, this normalizes spiritual disconnection and cultural amnesia. The emblem becomes just another government symbol, stripped of its deeper meanings. Critique. It's a subtle way to erase true history. The first people are there, but invisible in significance. Like nobody ever talks about them. Everything, yeah man, Jamaica, independence, yeah, Rasta, this, that, the other, or whatever. It's deeper. It's a becoming. It's a process of becoming. And we have to honor the whole process and all peoples of the becoming. So 5, aesthetic misinterpretation or disrespect. In modern, hypersexualized society, the image can be mocked, misused, or misunderstood. Some may view it as inappropriate or even pornographic without understanding its historical or spiritual context. Children are taught the motto but not the meaning of the figures, resulting in shame or confusion. Think about that for a minute. The psychological effects. Mommy, what that mean? I just something about nature, you know. We are natural people, you know. Daddy, oh, you have a bow, but you don't have no arrow. Oh, the man have bow, but you don't have no arrow. Where the arrow there? Can't see no arrow. Defenseless. A bow and no arrow. Mommy, how where them thing they upon them head? Them look like Indian. Don't worry about that, we are Jamaican. So we did look like that, mommy. No, I want next people when the Indian people did come. It's one big mix up. Nobody don't know the story proper straight. So let's dive in. Reinforcement of Babylonian structures. Rastafari and other Pan-African thinkers argue the entire coat of arms upholds colonial systems, a European cross, a crown, a Latin motto. Indigenous people holding it all up. Critique is symbolically shows black and indigenous people holding up Babylon. It's deep. Certain things right in front of your face. So, summary table, concerns and descriptions. Colonial exploitation designed under British rule for romanticizing conquest. No consent from indigenous people. Modern Taino descendants weren't consulted. Spiritual imbalance. Ancestral figures shown as passive, not divine. Psychological detachment. Symbol becomes meaningless or misinterpreted. Risk of mockery. Nudity without context invites ridicule. Colonial power upheld. Indigenous people symbolically hold up the cross. So final thought, what should be done? Many believe the Jamaican emblem should reclaim or redesign the emblem to reflect post-colonial, Pan-African or indigenous sovereignty. Let me clothe or reposition the Taino figures with dignity and power. Well on there. Holding tools, instruments, or wearing ceremonial regalia, regal outfits. Educate the public about the current symbolism so it's not blindly accepted. Little things, like I'm saying, symbology is the biggest things that rule us and we don't even realize it. And sometimes we are well things up and we are well up proud, say, yeah, see we're fitting it, and we don't even know what it means. We don't even know what it means. It's a way of continuing the narrative without us questioning certain aspects. With a dash with that, bond that. I don't even know where that t-shirt is. So the timeline of the Jamaican emblem, 1661, look how long ago, granted by a royal warrant from King Charles II of England, designed to represent the new English colony of Jamaica, featured a crocodile on top, a shield with 5 pineapples, 2 nude Taino figures, a man with a bow, a woman with a basket. Bow and no arrow. You ever hear anything like that? The Latin motto that was on it at the time, in this subscription, in this part here, sir, read something totally different. It read Indus, you know, think, Uturkey, Soviet Uni, the 2 Indies will serve one master, meaning England. The 2 Indies, East Indies, West Indies, and it's the same thing, same mindset when they went into the Ethiopian territory, or, you know, looking at when they divided and started rename Africa, reshape Ethiopia, give India its title, and before, again, they classed East and West, Ethiopia, Africa, and India as East and West, same vibration. So, 1962, Jamaican independence. The Latin colonial motto was replaced with the current motto, out of many, one people. However, the overall design stayed mostly the same, including the Taino man and woman, the pineapples, the crocodile. So while Jamaica became independent, it retained a colonial era emblem with minimal changes. So we're gonna have to do a real deep dive, which I always do, in looking at the breakdown of exactly what happened to lead to the present day, and including Jamaican Independence Day, and all the things that made us, the Jamaicans, who we are today. So just gonna quickly run through a whole detailed historical timeline. Gonna read it quick. So pre-Columbian era, Spanish conquest before 1655, pre-1494, the island known as Jamaica, known to the Taino people, who were they cultivated cassava, maize and fish. The society is organized with chiefdoms with rich spiritual traditions. 1494, Christopher Columbus lands on the island, claiming it for Spain. The Spanish remain in Jamaica. Early 1500s, Spanish colonists enslave and exploit the Taino population, leading to a near extinction by 1550. That's 50 years, the fastest. So 1590s to 1655, Spanish control weakens. Pirates and escaped African slaves, Maroons, established free communities. We have to look deep into that. British colonial rule and early resistance, 1655 to 1900 kick in. 1655, British forces captured Jamaica from Spain. Treaty of Madrid formally recognizes British sovereignty. The first Maroon Treaty grants autonomy to Maroon communities after years of guerrilla warfare. We're going to definitely be looking into that. Dutty Boukman, the Jamaican-born slave and voodoo priest, inspires the Haitian Revolution, symbolizing trans-Caribbean resistance. This is so important. We're going to actually end on that. This is one of the movements that made the Slavery Abolishment Acts come into full emancipation for slaves in Jamaica. Arrival of Indian indentured laborers to work plantations post-slavery was in 1845, followed by 1854, 9 years later. Paul Bogle leads the Morant Bay Rebellion against injustices, executed, but becomes a national hero. So by late 1800s, Chinese indentured workers arrive, contributing to Jamaica's multicultural fabric. But again, we are going to go into the deep dive of understanding. Already the Indians was already there, and they had already built a solid foundational inset with the Africans that were there and the indigenous last remaining Taino people. Then you had the cultural and political awakening in the 1900s to 1962, starting with 1914. Marcus Garvey founds the Universal Negro Improvement Association. We've got to do a whole chapter on that, promoting black pride and global Pan-Africanism. It's in the 1930s. 1930, Haile Selassie comes into play, gets crowned the king. 1938, labor rights erupt, highlighting economic and social grievance, leading to political reforms. 1939, Leonard Howard founds the Rastafari movement, emphasizing African identity. So you can see, so even from 1939, so the Indians arrived in 1845. We're talking about a whole 95 years, 90 odd years of the grooming between the Indians, African Maroons, and the Taino people to come up with that resilience of a mindset. Say, all right, we're gonna fire this thing off now. Leonard Howard founds the Rastafari movement in 1939. 1958, Jamaica joins the short-lived West Indies Federation, a step towards self-governance. And 1962, Jamaica gains independence from Britain. New flag symbolizes hope and strength. We ain't never stopped this, sir. They never stopped this. Post-independence, neo-colonialism and ongoing struggles. We're going to be looking at these things from 1970 to 98, the CIA and IMF import. 2011, UK Prime Minister David Cameron and his effects on present-day Jamaica, grappling with neo-colonial economic control, high crime rates linked to syndicates, yet vibrant cultural thrives via reggae, Rastafari, and activists' movements. So, right now, I would say that Rastafari, as a collective mindset, that what it's come through, like the whole 9 yards, it's not just some people that just decide to burn weed and just say, yeah man, I got to take on a thing. It's a whole process of becoming from people in persecution. It's a whole, out of money, we are one. And just that principle alone says that, yeah, maybe I should really look at this whole thing differently, rather than just still persecuting the idea of Rastafarianism, like it's some ism and schism. Realize and give thanks for their effort towards the possibilities of independence actually coming to fruition, for creating the mindset of a Jamaican, the mindset of the rebellion that is going to fight the colonized mindset. So
when most think,
whoops. So what I want to finish on is, like I said, Bookman is a very important figure.
When most think of the Haitian Revolution.
Let's just pause that. A very important figure in history. And let's just take in the story and look at the insight.
When most think of the Haitian Revolution, a pivotal episode in the island's history, most think of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, or maybe...
Let me just make sure you got good volume. Yeah, we're good. All right.
When most think of the Haitian Revolution, a pivotal episode in the island's history, most think of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, or maybe Toussaint Louverture. But did you know that one of the early leaders of the revolution wasn't Haitian? Dutty Boukman, also known as Boukman Dutty, was a fearless leader who helped spark the Haitian Revolution, which eventually led to the independent Republic of Haiti. Born in Senegambia, present-day Senegal and Gambia, where he was a Muslim cleric, he was captured, enslaved, and transported to Jamaica. After being discovered planning an insurgency in Jamaica, Dutty Boukman was sold to a plantation owner in Saint-Domingue, modern-day Haiti, where he rose to prominence as a Maroon leader and converted back to his own religion, becoming a Hungan, the title for a male voodoo priest. In the 18th century, the island of Saint-Domingue played an important role in colonial rule. It was under French control and its economy grew, but at a huge cost to the slaves. The brutal treatment and exploitation of the land and people fueled slaves' rage. As slaves continued to suffer, their longing for freedom intensified, paving the way for a rebellion against their white masters. Along this timeline, a slave in Haiti, Dutty Boukman rose up to challenge his French masters and inspire revolutions in various plantations in Haiti. On August 21, 1791, the day before the revolution began, a voodoo ceremony was held by Dutty Boukman at Bois Caïman, in the north of the island, to organize and pray for the slave revolt. The co-conspirators in attendance included Jean-François, Georges Biassou, Jeannot, and others. According to scholars, Boukman was joined by priestess Cécile Fatimon, a voodoo mambo, at the religious ceremony at Bois Caïman, which served as the catalyst to the 1791 slave revolt and is usually considered the beginning of the Haitian Revolution. At the ceremony, an animal was sacrificed, an oath was taken, and Boukman gave the following speech. "The God who created the earth, who created the sun that gives us light, the God who holds up the ocean, who makes the thunder roar, our God who has ears to hear, you who are hidden in the clouds, who watch us from where you are. You see all that the white has made us suffer. The white man's God asks him to commit crimes, but the God within us wants to do good. Our God who is so good, so just, he orders us to revenge our wrongs. It's he who will direct our arms and bring us the victory. It's he who will assist us. We all should throw away the image of the white man's God who is so pitiless. Listen to the voice for liberty that speaks in all our hearts." After the prayer, Boukman is said to have given a prophecy that 3 slaves, Jean-François, Biassou, and Jeannot, would lead revolutions that would free the slaves of Saint-Domingue. Thousands of slaves attended this secret voodoo ceremony as a tropical storm approached. The lightning and thunder were interpreted as positive omens, and later that night, the slaves began to kill their masters, plunging the colony into civil war. Please take a second and subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to be prompted for new episodes in the future. On August 22, 1791, the enslaved Africans of the French colony of Saint-Domingue, led by Boukman himself, Toussaint Louverture, and Jean-Jacques Dessalines, rallied supporters and began an uprising which changed the transatlantic slave trade forever. They joined forces with the island's free people of color the following day and started taking the rest of the plantations in the colony. The signal to begin the revolt had been given by Dutty Boukman and Cécile Fatimon during the religious ceremony held at Bois Caïman. Within the next 10 days, slaves had taken control of the entire northern province in an unprecedented slave revolt. Whites kept control of only a few isolated fortified camps. Boukman was one of the first leaders to successfully stage a slave rebellion, even after his first plot failed in Jamaica. However, the rebellion's early leadership was fractured. He was killed by the French plantation owners and colonial troops on the 7th of November 1791, just a few months after the beginning of the uprising. The French then publicly displayed Boukman's head in an attempt to dispel the aura of invincibility that Boukman had cultivated, but his influence lived on. His leadership inspired others, including Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and Henri Christophe, who continued the fight for independence. The fact that French authorities had to do this illustrates the impact Boukman made on the views of Haitian people during this time. The plantation owners had long feared such a revolt and were well armed with some defensive preparations. But within weeks, the number of slaves who joined the revolt in the north reached 100,000. Within the next 2 months, as the violence escalated, the slaves killed 4,000 whites and burned all, destroyed 180 sugar plantations and hundreds of coffee and indigo plantations. By 1792, they controlled northern and western Saint-Domingue, present-day Haiti. In the south, beginning in September, 13,000 slaves and rebels led by Romaine la Prophétesse, based in Trucofi, took supplies from and burned plantations, freed slaves, and occupied and burned the area's 2 major cities, Léogâne and Jacmel. The revolution eventually led to Haiti becoming the first free black republic on January 1st, 1804, making it the first nation in history established by formerly enslaved people after overthrowing European colonial rule. Other leaders of the Haitian Revolution include Toussaint Louverture, a charismatic and skillful leader who led a successful slave revolt against the French after Dutty Boukman's death. He turned the colony into a country governed by former black slaves. Jean-Jacques Dessalines, a military leader who served as Toussaint Louverture as lieutenant. He led the final uprising after Bonaparte captured Louverture. Henri Christophe worked in a hotel as a member of the privileged class of slaves. This gave him the opportunity to understand the social and racial classes in Saint-Domingue's cities and ports. The revolt began on 22nd August 1791 and ended in 1804 with the former colonies successfully achieved independence. It involved black, biracial, French, Spanish, British, and Polish participants, with the ex-slave Toussaint Louverture emerging as Haiti's most prominent general. The successful revolution was a defining moment in the history of the Atlantic world, and the revolution's effects on the institution of slavery were felt throughout the Americas. The end of French rule and the abolition of slavery in the former colony was followed by a successful defense of the freedoms the former slaves had won, and with the collaboration of already free people of color. The revolution was the largest slave uprising since Spartacus's unsuccessful revolt against the Roman Republic nearly 1,900 years earlier, and challenged long-held European beliefs about alleged black inferiority and about slaves' ability to achieve and maintain their own freedom. The rebels' organizational capacity and persistence under siege sparked stories that astonished and terrified slave owners across the region. By 1792, slave insurgents controlled 1/3 of Saint-Domingue. The success of the uprising made the National Assembly recognize it was in a dangerous situation. In March 1792, the Assembly extended civil and political rights to free men of color in the colonies. The decision stunned countries across Europe, including the United States, but the Assembly was determined to put an end to the insurrection. Aside from establishing rights to free people of color, the Assembly sent 6,000 French soldiers to the island, but this time not for battle purposes. Léger Félicité Sontonax, a new governor appointed by Paris, abolished slavery in the northern province and had unfriendly ties with white plantation owners. Meanwhile, in 1793, France declared war on Great Britain, leading Britain to declare British sovereignty over the colony, Saint-Domingue, believing that the British would maintain slavery. The British Prime Minister, William Pitt the Younger, believed that the success of the slave revolt in Haiti would inspire insurrections in other British Caribbean colonies. He further thought that taking Saint-Domingue the richest of the French colonies, would be a useful bargaining chip in eventual peace negotiations with France, and in the short while, occupying Saint-Domingue would mean diverting its wealth into the British treasury. The British troops who arrived in Saint-Domingue had an exceptionally low survival rate, with many dying of diseases such as yellow fever. The British government would deploy less trained youths to keep strong regiments. The inefficiency of the new soldiers, along with the devastation of disease on the army, resulted in a disastrous campaign in Saint-Domingue. American journalist James Perry notes that the great irony of the British campaign in Saint-Domingue was that it ended as a complete debacle, costing the British Treasury millions of pounds and the British military thousands upon thousands of dead, all for nothing. The revolution eventually led to Haiti becoming the first free black republic on January 1st, 1804, making it the first nation in history established by formerly enslaved people after overthrowing European colonial rule. Exploring Dutty Boukman's life, we see his experiences in Jamaica and Saint-Domingue shaped his dream of a free society. His legacy inspires and motivates many today. It reminds us of the power of courage and determination against all odds. Bye for now. Catch you on our next episode. Thank you.
So there you have it, a quick insight on the man, Dutty Boukman, and if we quickly just go back to see how far that was back in history, before Marcus, before we're talking about 1791, that revolution spirit that was handed down, the baton being handed down. We've got to reach there. So again, like I said, from the beginning, what we've gone through to achieve what we've got now, we still have to give thanks for what the beginning of the change. The beginning of the change. We've established a space, and we still need to build on it. And we find this echoing right throughout the world. And like I said at the beginning, we have to give thanks to people like Ibrahim Traore, that's really pulling out the weeds. And when other nations can follow that same pattern and pull out the weeds and support each other. So resources, education, infrastructures can come together and build, my word, the concepts of Wakanda could be global for black people. And this would be a beautiful sight. So still, regardless, like I said, we still have to say Happy Independence Day, because at least we achieved a mindset to be open-minded to see what needs to change and what we can argue and fight towards change. We have a right to have a voice, and we've come a long way from genocide to, at least there's some people sitting around the table. It might take another X amount of years, but it started. I didn't personally think I was going to see something like a Ibrahim Traore in my lifetime, with the amount of different types of oppression and civil wars that are going around the world in many different territories, not just black countries, but everywhere. But to see what Ibrahim Traore is doing, and it being echoed right through our people, Jamaica, all different territories in Africa, and it's setting a moral standing for everyone around the world, whether you're black, white, Chinese, this, that, the other, blah, blah, blah. You understand where he's coming from. And again, he's not cutting his nose to spite his face. He's building positive relationship with people of different countries where it's not based on colonial blueprints. And this is the pathway for the future. So It's been a very, very, very powerful insight. Just raise a little bit of music. So in closing, I want to say thank you all for joining me for this wonderful presentation on the Jamaican Independence Day, looking at it deep. And again, when we say Happy Independence Day, let's take a moment to say an internal prayer for the whole passing of the baton down to where we stand today, as even if it's Jamaicans that are off the island more than on the island, and just that whole principle of that continuation to build a strong, loving, unified, harmonious family that works in a space of liberty, humane responsibility, humane accountability, life's optimum vibratory energy. And even if it's something that it can't be achieved in this lifetime as a whole, have it as your energetic signature that this is the type of person that you are. This is what you're qualifying towards in terms of building that harmonized family of unified spirits and being the well-wisher of all. You can't go wrong with that spiritual signature, with that conscientious signature. That will make you rise to the heights of greatness. So, beautiful family, thank you again for joining me for this wonderful episode. And I'm going to say hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure that you stay in tune with all the stuff that is going to be coming up in the future on the channel. And I really do look forward. Let's turn the music down a bit, I can see it jumping. I really do look forward to future episodes on Too Much to Talk About. So like I said, hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell as well also. And stay bold, stay beautiful, and stay on the best side of being you. Namaste. Stay uplifted. Happy Independence Day.
Independence and everyone is happy. So I will now tell the story and please listen carefully. Manly called up a referendum for you to make your own decision. So the people voted wisely, now everyone is happy that there's no more federation. Now independence is good for the young and the old, also for me and you. Yes, independence is great for the whole population, including your children too. So I believe that if we try our best, it will be a great success. So let us live in unity for progress and prosperity. Let's go! Independent Jamaica. Manly went up to England to seek for independence, and although Buster was late, he still attended the conference. Although from two different parties, it was very good to see how these two politicians were shaking hands when they gained victory. Now independence is good for the young and the old, also for me and you. Yes, independence is great for the whole population, including your children too. So I believe that if we try our best, it will be a great success. So let us live in unity for progress and prosperity. Swing it, daddy. from England, they came the very same day on two different planes that stopped at Montego Bay. They separated back down to Kingston, but still we are very pleased. For they got independence, so let's rejoice to be the first in the West Indies. Now independence is good for the young and the old, also for me and you. Yes, independence is great for the whole population, including your children too. So I believe that if we try our best, it will be a great success. So let us live in unity for progress and prosperity. Swing it, daddy. Independence Jamaica.